see a lot of these coaches, and they've got these big personalities, right? Like, you know, you'll see a guy throw a temper tantrum, whatever. Jon Cooper's one of the calmest coaches I've ever seen. You never really, he's so even keel whenever you watch him, whenever they show him. He doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low. What's the impression you get from him? I mean, I think he's done a really great job, and I like his demeanor, but, you know, from a guy that sees him up close and personal, is that how you see it as well?
I think he's done a fabulous job with the Lightning. Jon Cooper is a lawyer, and I believe he was a trial lawyer. So when you're doing that, you know, you get used to being sort of calm. You got to look calm and cool and collective until a certain point. I'm sure that Coop has lost his cool a little bit sometime over the years of coaching, but you don't see it. You don't see it on the bench.
Never do see it.
Sure.
Well, and you know what, Phil? He obviously prepares these guys so well that he's not going to pretend that his yelling and his screaming or his ranting and his raving is going to do anything for them but interfere with what they have to do. He's already made a plan. He's told them how to play it, and for him to start showing emotion makes those players say, well, he's lost it, we're gone. And I have so much admiration for Jon Cooper for that reason, and I think behind it is a cool lawyer's-type mind that says, if I go into that trial unprepared, I'm dead meat no matter what dancing I do.
Absolutely right.
He has teams ready to play, and he trusts them to execute the plan, and yelling and screaming is not a part of the teaching process.
I couldn't agree more, Bill. And there are two people that are there all winter long on the road with Coop and Stevie Thomas and Rick Bowness. These guys really just do their job. They don't yell a lot. They don't get too angry, and things seem to work out for them. And you've got to have a half decent team too, though, to be like that. If you got a real bad team, you do that, and it doesn't. They don't respond. So now you're trying to find a way to get them to respond. So maybe you yell a little bit more. Maybe you don't. I've had coaches that have done that. I've had coaches that have yelled. I've had coaches that have lost their cool in the dressing room. Hell, my second or third game with the Bruins, I never forget Milt Schmidt coming in and knocking the water cooler and all the oranges off the table and everything else. And there's Jerry Cheevers, and we had lost 6-2 or 6-3, and he went around and he said to me, and he said, you whelp son of a bitch, I should have left you in Chicago. No wonder they traded you. And I went, whoa, wow. And there's Cheesy. I'm looking at him. He had his belly pad off and everything else. He's sitting there with just his pads, smoking a cigarette and drinking a beer. And nothing's bothering him. And Milty says, come on, Cheesy. In fact, J.C. Tremblay scored a goal from the red line on one of those fluke bouncers. And he said, man, you must have felt like an asshole. Cheesy said, no, I didn't feel like an asshole. Not at all. And Milt stopped, turned around, and all of us were wondering what the hell. And Cheesy takes a sip of beer and off a cigarette, and he said, no, I felt like I don't know whether I can say this on the air.
You can say whatever you want, Phil. You've already done it.
I said I felt like a queer, which in those days, you know, it was a gay guy. And Milt says, what do you mean? He said, well, if you had 15,000 people calling you a fucking cocksucker, what would you feel like? And Milt just turned around and walked out. The whole room broke into laughter. And we went on a 10-game winning streak after that.
Nice.
And so you've got to have a character in the room, too. You know what I mean?
This reminds me of a story, I guess, is Jim McKenna. I don't know if you guys have heard this story before, where Red Kelly was coaching the Leafs, and Red Kelly was notorious for not swearing. The closest he would get would say the word hang.
Yeah.
So he's pissed off with the team, and he goes in the dressing room, and he starts saying what he's saying, and then he says the word hang. And Jim McKenna blurts out, geez, I know we're playing really bad, but did you have to swear? So the same type of reaction that like one of those guys in the room that in the midst of all this craziness some guy's going to say something just to loosen everybody up.
And everybody laughed, and that's what happened with us. And Milt told me later on, he told Harry Sinden the story in the coach's room, and they laughed so hard at Cheesy. But in those days, guys would smoke cigarettes sitting there and drink beer right after the games and everything else. It was a different time, to tell you that.